The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this advice card, Why You Didn't Win That Public Sector Bid. My name is Chris Farthing. I'm the founder and CEO of Advice Card. A quick piece of housekeeping is our new short format, so excuse me for rushing into things and cracking on. It's our new short format that we're using. We found it's very successful so far. Rather than keeping you for an hour, aiming to get everything done within half an hour. So quick bit of housekeeping before we start. This is being recorded, and the video and the deck and everything will be shared afterwards, including answers to questions. If you do have questions during the time, you're all muted at the moment, and that will remain for the whole thing, the whole of the event. If you do have questions, please use your sidebar to ask questions, not chat. We can't save the chat in case there are any questions that aren't answered. We have a period at the end for Q&A. I think between 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how quickly I get through things. And we will endeavour to, those we can't answer, we will answer and send around as a whole pack. So, yeah, delighted to welcome you here today. And, these new forms are very exciting for us. We found a lot of really good feedback from them. There will be, I'll crack into the agenda, why not now, once we've done a quick introduction. But we will be asking polls to make them a bit more interactive as well. So we can actually gauge the temperature of the room and see exactly, where you're at within your bid maturity. So who are we? Who are Advice Card? For those of you who've not been on one of our webinars before, we consider ourselves the world's only GovTech viability mentors. We are public sector procurement experts, and we're quite well known for our work around G-Cloud and DOS as well. Unusually for a lot of procurement consultancies, we work with buyers and suppliers. And we were founded in 2014. In fact, in a month's time, we will be into our 10th year of trading. We'll be 9 years old. So since 2014, we have over £1 billion as cumulative business has been won by our clients across all frameworks. In fact, that's probably more about £1.5 billion now, actually, to be honest. And we have 71% of our clients are in fact SMEs, and we're very passionate about working with SMEs. We do work with sort of large organisations, so we have a big four consultancy that are long-term customers of ours, plus a number of the larger SIs. But our real passion lies with working and helping SME organisations to enter into and grow within the UK public sector. So here's the agenda for today. So what are we covering? So first of all, we'll go to what do we mean by public sector bid, for those of you that are new to this. From just setting the scene, we always do our webinars from a zero knowledge of the agenda perspective, okay? So for those of you that are a lot more experienced on this, you may want to, there'll be interesting stuff for you here, but bear in mind that this is aimed at people that are probably pretty new to bidding within the public sector or haven't done it before, okay? So the agenda here says, what do we mean by a public sector bid? Then we'll walk on to what buyers are actually looking for in a bid. We'll give you some top tips that we found in terms of our evaluation. I mean, we regularly, on a monthly basis, go through between 3 to 8 bids, mostly call us from frameworks, doing red team reviews with a reasonably good success rate, actually, depending on, again, the organisation, their maturity and that as well. So we've got a lot of top tips on how to improve your bidding and how to improve your win rate, or at least improve your shortlisting success. We then give you some examples about how we can help and go into Q&A. So without further ado, let's crack on. So first of all, I'm helping my excellent marketing lead, Danny, who's going to run a quick poll just to help us check the temperature of the room. So Danny, if I can hand over to you, please. Okay, I will see if I can do this myself. Here we go. Right, so the poll is, have you bid before on UK public sector opportunities? Please say yes, we've bid on lots already, yes, 1 or 2, or no, we haven't bid on anything at all. And good response already. Up to 82%, give it another 10 or so seconds. Okay, let's close that down, Danny, and we'll show the results, please. Okay, so we've got, yes, 62% of you have bid on lots already, or 30% on 1 or 2. So, okay, so we'll try to adjust as we go along here. So hopefully you'll get the people that will get some useful information out of this. If you're finding that it could be of this, it's a little bit below the expectations and what you needed, then just get in touch. We can always have a chat about sharing our experience. As you can tell by going on our website and going through our stuff, we love sharing our experience and our knowledge. Okay, so yeah, if you close that down now, Danny, we'll crack on. Weird. So what do we mean by public sector bids? Okay, so let me just move this out of the way because I couldn't see it while I was talking to. So sometimes it may seem common sense, but there are many different ways for doing public sector contracts. So, bidding on a presented opportunity is one of the most common ways. I mean, not doing that, there's also different ways you can do direct awards and working with partners and things like that. But in terms of by a public sector bid, it is responding to a posted opportunity by a public sector organisation or department or public service organisation if you're including charities and not-for-profit organisations. Tends to be most common in the form of an invitation to tender or ITT, and is often seen through the work that we do, certainly through procurement frameworks or dynamic purchasing systems. We don't tend to cover, although we have done them, the very large OJU style bid responses. When we're a small team, those sort of things tend to hoover up large teams, and we just don't have the capability to do that, and we're not particularly interested in doing those. We tend to focus on doing very, very much on the quick tender responses. Okay, and these are called further competition things. So where you've gone onto a framework and then a buyer's decided it's seen a number of suppliers it wants to interview or wants to invite to say, okay, I've got this piece of work, come and bid for it. All right. So this is the opportunity to show how you as a supplier can meet and ideally exceed the customer's needs and really show off your skills and exclusivity as to why they should be using you. Okay, so in terms of what the buyers look for in a bid, this is making sure what we call buyable. We built out a whole raft of information around buyability and making you buyable. There's so many things that can block that procurement. I'm an ex-public sector buyer, okay, and I used to get calls all the time. People wanted to sell to me, and it was quite difficult having to deal with everyone failing. So there's quite a lot of things just to help you to manage your time and you can put in the way of sellers actually trying to say, to reduce the number of people that are trying to sell to you. These can become blockers and whatever. There's a number of things, and there's always a consistent and common number of things that are always there. So let's go through and have a look at these. All right. So what are buyers looking for in a bid? And are you really hitting the mark here? Yeah. So, as I said, our experience with public sector buyers and supporting our tech suppliers has given us a real insight into what evaluators want to see. And as an public sector buyer, I pretty much know. So there's lots of different methods procurement will use in terms of different scoring methods. Okay, the main one that is used is most economic advantageous tender, and that is a mix of quality, as in your technical response to a bunch of questions about what your solution offers, and price. Okay, now that can often be just driven using price driven. Okay, and doesn't really cannot take into account the overall quality of the bid. So what we're now seeing is in the new procurement regulations that are coming through, they're now moving towards using MAT, which is the most advantageous tender. So you may find it's less focused on the money part. I mean, if you see a bid that comes in at 30% quality and 70% price, I think that should give you an indication of what the organisation is looking for. And if they're looking for a complex service, then I'd probably ignore that because it means that basically they're wanting to give that to an incumbent. They're just trying to beat them up on price. Okay. So as I say, it doesn't seem that pricing might be evaluated, but the procurement bill from 2022, which will come into statute hopefully October next year, propose that buyers do need to make sure that the bid satisfies the subject matter of the contract. All right. So what we're trying to avoid is that whilst we might have 70% for technical, we're trying to get people up to getting as high as possible we can to meeting our requirements. Not somebody who's going to deliver 45% of the technical requirement, but then has won it on price. Yeah, and that has become a problem certainly over the last few years. Certainly since COVID's come in, we've seen a lot of this happening. So as I say, UK Gov in the main is no longer looking just for lowest price, but for the broader quality of benefits too. All right. So in terms of when you're actually putting together a bid, okay, I mean, we do a lot of scoring of people's first drafts and when they're wanting to attend this. What you'll see is you get like 5 questions, and there'll be a bunch of they'll ask you, give you 500 words to respond to each question, okay, and that's going to be scored. Yeah. So they'll ask you a question and they'll say, please tell us how you're going to do this. All right. And you'll write down some answer. And pretty much 80% to 90% of the time, there's no evidence of what you're going to do. You don't prove, you don't say, yeah, we will do this. We'll meet your requirements. You don't actually evidence and say what you're going to do and how it's going to be done. And this is what we've done elsewhere. Okay. So that's why I put here evidence, evidence, evidence. It's so key. And that's what we see in the winning bids. Okay. We can see a clear outline of what was delivered, a breakdown of how it was delivered and who was involved, and specifically what was the measurable outcome of the project for the customer. And the way that we structure that is called SWR, which is situation, work, results. Yeah. There's also another one called STAR, which is situation, task, action, results, but that's much more used on contingent labour or digital specialists and things like that. Okay. But in terms of structuring a response, especially if you're using any of the CCS frameworks like DOS or digital specialists and programs, tech services, they all want to see it in pretty much this format: situation, work, results. This was the problem. This is what we did. This was a tangible and measurable results given to a client, okay, at the end of it. So why didn't I win? On to the crux of what we're all about here for today. So your example didn't align with the opportunity enough. Well, that's pretty self-evident sometimes. You might think you've written a fantastic response. However, have you actually measured that against the scoring criteria and looked at what you want against the specification? And quite often people have gone too much on a tangent and haven't actually responded and answered the question. So just remember, it is an exam. All right. Answer the question. We used to call this having buyer's forehead. Yeah, well, you sit there and you just banging your head on the table saying, why haven't they answered the question here? And especially if people so it means it wasn't clear how your solution can help meet their needs. Your responsive might lack some context around why your solutions are needed. A lot of this we find now is due to lack of early engagement. Now, as a public sector procurement person, I believe in tendering. I think it works if it's done the right way. However, as an advisor to bidding organisations, my first thing is if you didn't know the bid was coming, then why are you responding to it? Because you've had no opportunity to understand the client up front or the prospect up front and get some sort of understand their emotional reasons, how what they're buying, what the reasons are, what the culture's like in the organisation, and that will not translate into your bid. Okay, the only way you're probably going to win that is on price. All right. Now, that's not to say that bluebirds don't happen. A bluebird is where you bid blind and win, but most experience we've got that the people who win those bids will be known already to the organisation. Not an incumbent, but they have had some sort of conversation prior to that bid landing. Okay, so it doesn't help you stand out amongst your competitors and thinking of your advantage points on quality, expertise, innovation, experience, and finally price. Price shouldn't be at the top there; it should be at the bottom. So I'm going to change that slide. Compliance is another reason. Okay, a lot of this around frameworks, to be honest, but you still need to be showing that you will comply with the relevant labour laws, environmental regs, tax laws, and whatever. That you have an ethical compliance, that you've got standards and code of conduct, that you're asked to make sure that you will comply with these. Technical compliance, there's lots of different standards that you need to require from there. There's the DDAP playbook. There's GDS's service manual or government service manual now. There's all sorts of different things there. And finally, financial compliance, including insurance policies, performance bans, and things like that as well. So there's a lot of things that you need to make sure from a compliance perspective. This is reasons for to be discounted. Okay, so quite often you might find that someone focuses on answering the questions, but yet when they're looking through the compliance section of the call-off requirement or the tender itself, if it was a non-framework tender, then there was a last minute of, oh, we don't meet here, so just wasted a lot of our time. So you usually do compliance check first, is what we're trying to say. Social value is the biggest differentiator that I've seen in work in a number of years. Okay, I've been working on social value since 2012. However, since COVID, what's called PPN 0620, so PPN number 6, Procurement Policy Note 0620, social value has become a deal breaker. All right. Our business partners that we work with quite closely, and I'm quite happy to steal this, they say that there's a minimum 10% of all of the tender requirement has to be aligned to social value, talking around, as per the social value model, COVID-19 recovery, tackling economic inequality, fighting climate change, equal opportunity, and staff well-being. Yeah. So that's like, if you don't get this right, that's like giving your competitors a 10-meter head start in a 100-meter sprint. Yeah, if you think about it, that 10% of its minimum worth. I mean, places like Manchester City Council or Manchester authorities are giving up to 40% now for social value. It's that important to them. So sometimes we can see you haven't communicated clearly, don't overpromise, be realistic. You know, this is a lot of SMEs say this is really tough for them, but actually it's hard, or you find it's harder for the large organisations because they have this global reach and trying to get that, they're putting their social value into what they're going to do in the UK. And if you're working in local government, you might actually have to do it down to the ward level. You know, but they find it very difficult, and social value can be a real differentiator for an SME once you know what you're doing and how to do it. Okay. So you put here as well that social value outline was linked to delivery. What are the strategic goals? You know, always try and link it back to the subject matter requirement. Buyers find that difficult in the questions they ask. They might just ask to tell us how you can do social value on those 5 areas, rather than saying, okay, we're doing this piece of work and we want you to answer how are you going to tell us do equal opportunity and tackle economic inequality in this area. All right. So it'd always be linked back to the subject matter of the contract you're doing. It wasn't measurable. Now that the SV model has been in place since 2020 and organisations bidders are putting, we will deliver this, it's the management of those contracts and social value responses are becoming key, and we're seeing more and more and more organisations that are being what's called contract managed properly. Yeah, so each year or every 6 months, they have a contract management meeting and talk about what they've delivered, improving it. All right, because organisations and departments are having to collate all of this and they're going to start to say what social value they're delivering. Okay, and so putting there, just think about it, it's a tick box exercise. It certainly isn't. It is an absolute deal breaker. So a quick poll, Danny. So our next one. So when bidding on opportunities, our win rate is 1 in select one. So for how many bids it take for you to win one? Is it 2 or 3, 4 to 8, more than 9? We don't win, you don't bid, or we only ever win. Okay, we're getting up to 70% voted. Give it another 10 seconds, see how many we get. More people, get your votes in. Okay, we're up to 80%. Let's close that down now and put it up there, please, Danny. Thanks for the results. Thank you. Okay, so we've got 2 or 3, got nearly 30%. Congratulations, that's awesome. 4 to 8, 33%. That's still pretty good going. See, there's room for improvement there. More than 9. Don't win, don't bid, and we only ever win. That's 3%. Well, fantastic. Congratulations to you. Let's close that down now, and we will crack on. Thank you very much. So, top tips. What can you do now? So what can you do to boost what we call your buyability? All right. So as we say, we've seen our fair share of amazing bids, as well as a rather large number of not so brilliant ones too, especially when we do retrospectives. People say, oh, we did our best job, and why didn't we do this? Wasn't fair. So here's what we think should be doing. And the prime one is get upstream in those conversations prior to bid release. Okay. I'm not going to go to all this because we don't have a lot of time. So what that basically means is try to understand what the buyer is actually looking for and speak to the team or delivery, especially if a contract's coming to an end. You can get all this information from the likes of Stottles and other providers. If you join Tech UK, you'll see lots of things around the early market engagements and things like that. The departments are required to publish their pipelines now. There's a lot of open data out there. It's difficult to find. Don't get me wrong, don't make it easy to find, but there's a lot of stuff out there. The next one is to have a bid qualification in place. So when a bid lands, you can actually say whether you think you can, and they've been really harsh on this. I'll talk about this in a minute. Again, is to really work out whether you're going to win it. And if you can't answer one question sufficiently, move on. Don't try and wing it, because one, you're wasting your own time, but two, you're wasting the buyer's time, because they all have to evaluate it. All right. Get your accreditations in order before you bid. So make sure you have your Cyber Essentials, Cyber Essentials Plus, your ISOs, whatever you think you're going to need that's relevant to that area. Storyboard your response before you start putting it together. Everyone wants to start writing, yeah, but storyboarding and actually outlining what the required and how you're going to present it and what that's going to be is absolutely crucial. All right, because it can save you huge amounts of time later on in reviews. All right. Now, for longer term bid strategy, creating a bid content library is extraordinarily useful, because you can put your winning bids that are in there once that you've had, the winning questions, and once you've done so well in there, and you can repurpose those, not actually just drop them in, but you can repurpose those ones, knowing that they are strong answers. All right. Spending time to craft your bid strategy within your company. Don't go in blindly using a scattergun approach. Again, qualify really hard. We worked with one organisation. They came to us and said we've won one in 85 digital outcomes and specialist things. So they started working with us, and they got that down to they were qualifying for 3 out of 5, and they were then winning 1 out of 3 of those, which isn't too bad. A shortlisting, a shortlist to win. I think we got them up to one point. We got them to winning. They won 7 out of 7 bids in 1 year. They won with a 49 net new business win. So just by doing some simple things that we're outlining, we help them really massively improve, and they've grown hugely since working with them. All right. So again, carrying out the continuous social value development, it's absolutely critical now. You can't ignore it. Okay. Get marketing, as my erstwhile colleague Daniel will tell you. People need to know about you, and they need to know what you stand for. All right, and that's a continual thing, and it can help within your bid stuff as well. Carry out reviews and retros. Don't just move on to the next one. Find out what you went wrong and where you went wrong in your processes, where you went and where you went when it went well. Again, do a retro on that and find out what went right here, and then put that into your bid process, and ask for feedback from buyers. And if you don't get it, push, and if it gets generic, ask a little bit harder, but kindly and nicely. People are very busy. So how can we help? I'm going to be very quick through this because I want to get some questions. So we split our services into pre-bid, bid, and post-bid. All right. We've got excellent stuff here about doing around capture planning, which is about gathering the customer insight, competitive environment, strategizing how to win, building that additional solution framework, your social value development, and bid qualification guidance, and potentially even the development of your own internal bid, no bid decision tool. Then there's clearly the whole bid stuff, the bid management process, social value response drafting, reviews, presentation, coaching and advice, and bid submission and sign off. And then, of course, there's the post-bid stuff as well. So retrospective lessons learned, assessing client feedback, doing some knowledge management and building a content library. There's lots and lots of things we can do there for you as well, all underpinned by training and client workshops, capture planning sessions, right across that whole life cycle of the bid. Okay. So we have 50% of our work that we do these days is literally focused on further competitions and bids. So if you want to find out a little bit more about your pain point slide, we've developed our viability assessment. We've had, this is a tool we launched about just before July, just before I went on holiday. And we've had near enough 200 assessments now have gone through this. So please do try and run your viability score. It's been developed by our GovTech viability mentors in-house, and it breaks down your score into actionable sections, letting you know what steps you need to take. And it only takes a couple of minutes. Okay, it's a really good tool. It's quite helpful. So we've had some really good feedback on this, and it's going to be iterating more and more. Or you can actually book a viability check-in with me or my team. The things are here. There's on the QR code, or click on this when you get the slides. There will be time to go straight into one of our diaries, and you'll be able to come and have a chat to us about where you think you could improve, or where we think you could improve, I should say, really. All right, so quick final poll, please, Danny. I think it's the final one before we go into Q&A. Okay, how did you find this session? Okay, was it very useful, or not useful at all? Okay, we've got nearly 90% voted, Danny. Let's just close that down and get on to Q&A while we can. Let's see the responses. Okay, very useful, 43%. Very useful, 52. So that's so 95%. I'm sorry for the 5% it's not useful. Please, we're always looking to improve. Find and tell us what it was you didn't like about it. Okay, use the questions or chat or email us. There's some contact details at the end. But thank you so much to the 95% of you that really have found it useful. So on to Q&A. If we close that down now, please, Danny. I should have used something like this so you can see my lovely logos. I hate looking at myself in this. See, Danny, you there?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so as Chris said, please chuck them into the questions box and we can get around to answering any questions. Any we don't have time to, we will send around the answers afterwards. A little question that we've got in here, you talk about getting feedback and assessing feedback after bids. We found it hard to get feedback from buyers. What can we do?
Well, there's specific language. You are entitled to receive this, but you need to be fairly firm and persistent. And there is specific language that if once you know your procurement regulations, and we do this as part of our training on how to actually ask for feedback on your bids. And it can be tricky and sometimes it's a bit generic, but once you learn how to ask this and the right way to ask it, you tend to find that a buyer will wake up and go, oh, okay, these guys know what they're talking about. We'll get in touch. So yeah, it can be tricky to get. You just have to be polite and persistent, but also learn how to use the right language to ask for it. Because you are regulated there. The buyer, if the thing's above a certain value, of course, is required to provide you with feedback under the law.
Some questions coming in now. Brilliant. Someone asks, are you entitled to know who the contract was awarded to?
Absolutely. Yes, it should be. When you're told you're unsuccessful, they should tell you who the successful bidder was. And if you don't, then ask for that information. Or you can use tools like STOTLs again, or Contracts Finder, which isn't that great. There are tools out there that you can use that will show you eventually who won those contracts.
Okay. Someone else asks, what's your advice about word counts on responses? Sometimes they are so minimal, it's hard to know what to focus on.
Yeah, I know. I remember the old 100-word responses on DOS were always very, very, very tricky to do. They've expanded it out a little bit more now. As a buyer, I like to keep things quite minimal for the simple fact that I know if I'm going to get 20 people responding to something and it's like I've got 10,000 words to go through, that's an awful lot of stuff to get through. Okay, so it helps you be precise and it does keep you very much focused. So I wasn't a big fan of the 100-word answers. A lot of people got used to writing them. But I think anything more than 500 words can be a bit daunting, to be honest, and you've got to try and evaluate it.
Nice. So someone else says, hi Chris, very useful content, thanks. Brilliant, thanks for the feedback. If you are bidding for the first time in a particular sector, is there a way to win when you are effectively a newcomer to that market, or are you just wasting your time because you have no reference ability?
I think it's always, if you have some experience within government, it can be helpful. Probably the best way for that is to look potentially for partners that you can work with to gain that experience first of all. It's not ideal, and it's unless you have something that's fairly unique that the buyer is going to be looking for. And by that time, you should really have done some pre-market engagement with someone and know that they're actually interested and they're okay with things. So, if you're going to go into a market, I would suggest try to find people that you can talk to and have fairly open and honest conversations about whether they would buy that stuff. I mean, we do this as part of go-to-market work. We have a bunch of ex-government chief officers who work with us on our advisory panel, and we do a lot of work around go-to-market in terms of companies want to enter into a new market. So I think you can, but you do need to have done your homework first of all. And it's a tough one, but or either that or partner with someone that's already in the market and gain your experience that way.
Brilliant. It's actually past. That's gone very, very quickly.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. There are some questions in that we haven't answered. Don't worry, we will type up answers to those and send them around with the recording, which I will aim to do tomorrow morning. So hopefully that will get out to you tomorrow. Yeah, don't worry if your question hasn't been answered.
Okay, well, thanks, Danny. And sorry we couldn't get to everyone's questions. I really appreciate the feedback today and for being on here. I think we've got another one of these next month on different things, but do keep an eye out on our socials and our lists. And thanks very much for everything for coming today. From the Q&A. Thanks. See you soon. Thanks very much. Bye for now.